I have to do call to actions and I literally always forget. But if you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and ring the bell for notifications when I post new content. Alright, let's get into the video. Fashion means a lot to Black women, to the point where Black women have created entirely new fashion subcultures, one of which I was a part of and that we discussed years back on this channel. But we'll talk more about the different fashion trends headed by Black women at a later date. For now, let's talk about fashion and Black women's politics. When we think of Black femme fashion, we don't typically think of politics, but Black women's mere existence in a white patriarchy is in fact political. It stands to reason then that Black women's unique relationship to self-expression is often met with politically charged responses. For example, when enslaved Black women would raise their skirts in order to move easier through the fields they were forced to work in, lascivious white men pointed at this as an excuse for those women's sexual subjugation, disregarding the fact that long cotton skirts are completely impractical to move in, let alone do hard forced labor that they themselves were too weak and lazy to do, and the fact that these half-wits forced these colonial fashions onto those women in the first place. Same with white colonizers who observed African women in their natural habitat, the fucking desert, where it wasn't exactly practical to always be covered up from head to toe. Once again, rather than using common sense,
that's stupid! Use your common sense.
An unbiased lens, they imposed their own perverted fantasies of these women's sexuality for simply existing in the way that was most comfortable in their natural environment. The result? A hypersexualization that has followed Black women across the diaspora for generations. Regardless as if we're wearing a full-length dress or a string bikini, it's not the clothes that are hypersexual nor the style. It's the Black female body itself under the white male gaze. Don't worry though, I've got a longer video coming on that in the future. This has led to Black women internalizing messaging forced on us regarding our value and morality under the guise of how we dress. Oh, Megan Thee Stallion and Nicki Minaj deserve to have their asses touched without consent because look how they're dressed. But where does it end? Because Michelle Obama, despite dressing exactly as one would expect of a Harvard-educated lawyer and a president's wife, was still masculinized and deeply degraded and critiqued for her physical appearance. Serena Williams, who made the grave mistake of not only being a dark-skinned Black woman, but a muscular Black femme athlete at that, has always oscillated between either being hyper-masculinized or hypersexualized, depending on how she's dressed and what she's doing at any given time. I say all this to say that Black women cannot conservatively dress our way into respectability. Our respectability was stripped from us the moment white men in powdered wigs decided they had an agenda, and their offspring have kept that agenda alive and well at our expense ever since. But we'll get back to that later. Now, as is standard in the patriarchy, when it came to Black activism, men stood at the forefront while women were expected to play a supporting role. There were, however, a few arenas where the wives of these figures could shine. The domestic sphere, i.e. child rearing, homemaking, party planning, and aesthetics being a few. As I mentioned in a previous video, early 19th century beauty moguls such as Annie T. Malone and Madam C.J. Walker made it clear that the beauty industry was one avenue where Black women's creativity, ingenuity, and industrialism could shine. Showcases for Black American fashion began as early as the 1800s and 1910s, blending political activism, a traditionally masculine field, with fundraising centered on party planning and social events, which was considered more appropriate for women to engage in. Fashion shows organized by Black women would double as fundraisers for schools, orphanages, women's social clubs, churches, etc. And much like the Fenty fashion shows of today, fashion shows back then were an all-around spectacle of entertainment and included performances such as singing, dancing, and skits. Popular nightclub singer of the 1950s, Joyce Bryant, was invited to a Harlem fashion show to model her gowns and signature silver hair after performing for the show. Irvin C. Miller, with his partner Blanche Thompson, brought style, grace, verve, and high-end entertainment to Black audiences who were barred from attending white shows. Despite the Ziegfeld Follies stealing their signature showman style from a Black revue, Black performers were not allowed on Ziegfeld's stage or in his audience. The joke was on them, though, because by biting Ziegfeld style, Miller was able to generate $6,000 a week, or roughly $90,000 in today's money, with his all-Black fashion showcases. And of course, his models and female performers were an integral part of that. So much so that Blanche, his star, was frequently spotlighted for her fashions, which were recreations of Parisian couture. She was not only a burlesque performer and model, but a muse for Black beauty and makeup brands. Then, of course, there is the classic model walk, a slow-moving, graceful glide which counteracted the over-exaggerated caricature movements utilized in minstrel shows. You see, white performers' interpretations of Black people's ability to actually relax our bodies when we move was to over-exaggerate every motion in the name of comedy. Y'all, I will maintain to this day that white people are not funny. They're racist. They think people being different is the punchline. The joke is never clever social commentary. It's just, haha, that person isn't white. Isn't that hilarious that they aren't white? Isn't that hilarious how they aren't white? Isn't that hilarious? Anyway, fashion shows offered the black public a few things: an opportunity to showcase their unique style, beauty, talent, and a place to fellowship and celebrate themselves, economic opportunities, and the ability to engage in the socio-political landscape. Because of all this, the black women who headed these important functions found their foothold as pillars of the black community, as social organizers and political activists in their own right, with beauty, grace, and style. Which brings me back to earlier. We cannot conservatively dress our way into respectability. That ship sailed along with the ones that brought our ancestors to the Americas and beyond. But maybe we should challenge ourselves to think about how our individual personal styles might empower us, and in turn our communities, to be our unapologetically black selves in this white surveillance state. You don't have a choice how the world sees you as a black woman when the world has determined that you're not even human. But you do have a choice in how you see yourself. And if you can live with what you see and be happy, whether that's in booty shorts or a burqa, then to me that's enough. But that's a video for another day. Alright, y'all. That's all I've got. Until next time, bye.